Okay. So first, they are directing more towards sight than intelligence, and are therefore most easily imitated by sleight of hand. Second, they arouse more curiosity than the others, are more appropriate for attracting crowds, and consequently, they are more fruitful. From this double point of view, it is easy to see why charlatans are so interested in imitating these manifestations. When they are talking about the possibility to make revenue. That's why we used to see people. Hi, Charles.
Yes, it was there was
Charles?
an interruption in the sound, but it came back.
Okay, sorry. Basically, they were considering that the medium of physical effects phenomena, they are easy to reproduce, and I think we spoke about that last week, that nowadays would be really difficult to know what is what, because it's very difficult to identify nowadays what is true, what is not true, and the social medias, on the TV. So that would be very difficult. From this double point of view, it is easy to see why charlatans are so interested. So charlatans, basically, they profit from it. They make money of it, and sometimes they make a living from it, all right? Since most spectators are unfamiliar with science, they are generally more interested in entertainment than serious instructions. Let me go a bit more and then I'll make a comment. And we know that entertainment always pays better than instructions. And I ask myself, are we any different? Are we in the Spiritism because of curiosity, because we want to figure out what is happening, because we heard about it, because we want to see the phenomena? Maybe. I don't complain about people trying to be like that, or people that are in the Spiritism because of those reasons, because sometimes they come by curiosity and they find themselves in a place where they find answers for their inner questions. Another point here, when it talks about instructions, well, people don't like to study, really. It's almost like against the human behavior, human nature. People don't want to study. And there is only one way we will truly understand the Spiritism, its phenomena, and everything around it. The only way to do this is through a serious and methodological study. Let me rotate here, because it will be better. Okay. There is a more decisive reason to consider. However, sleight of hand can imitate physical effects and only requires dexterity. But so far, it has not been gifted with improvisation, which requires an uncommon dose of intelligence, and it cannot therefore produce those beautiful and sublime sayings that spirits normally provide during their communication, and which, I just lost the screen, which require uncommon dose of intelligence, and cannot therefore produce those beautiful. I cannot see beyond that. Let me rotate my mobile. Let me just rotate my mobile, because maybe it's that. Okay, and cannot therefore produce those beautiful and sublime saying that spirits normally provide during their communications, and which are frequently so apropos. This reminds us the following occurrence. Literally, a gentleman came to see us one day and said that he was a qualified intuitive writing medium and that he was available to the Spiritist Society. Since it was the society policy not to accept mediums whose abilities we were unsure of, we asked the visitor first to come to a private meeting to provide us with evidence of his faculty. He actually came to the meeting with several mediums were either writing speech dissertation or responding with remarkable precision to questions asked of them, or about issues of unknown topics. When the visitor turn came, he wrote some meaningless words, said that he was not feeling well that day, and we never saw him again. He undoubtedly found that the role of an intelligent effect medium was more difficult to enact than he had thought. Well, from time to time, not very often, we see people coming to us saying, I'm having this, I'm having that. I'm a medium, I can read, I can hear. But sometimes the person is not doing that for purpose, but it's something that is not that natural yet. Sometimes the person needs to start the development, and then things will come to be normal, as I would say, become natural. But some, they really want to, but they don't have what is required to be a medium. Because as we've spoken before, mediumship is organic. If you don't have the characteristics to be one, you will not. That characteristic is not possible. If it was not meant to be, you will not have those characteristics. There is one difference between being a medium, not know about it, not develop the characteristic, and through the exercises, through the practice, develop mediumship. Even through the years, you may think that I'm just a medium able to hear or to write or something, and through the practices, after a period of time, you can develop other abilities. But if you don't have what is required, if you don't have the basics to be a medium, and when I'm talking about medium, I'm talking about an ostensive medium, because we all, to a certain extent, we have some sensibility. But when I'm talking about being a medium, it's a medium that possesses a high degree of sensibility, okay? And if I'm not planned, let me put it this way, if I'm not planned to be a medium during this incarnation, that's not going to happen. And then I may have people thinking, what do you mean planned for this incarnation? Because, yeah, we need to go a little bit back and remember that we plan on the spiritual world to be a medium. We plan, we've been prepared, we studied, and then we incarnated. Sometimes when we are on the physical body, we forget those things and we don't do anything with that. But that's what we do. Okay. What else? About the difficulty to pretend or to fake some intelligent message. I consider that it's possible to, but it's a bit more difficult. It's not like you can do and you can do that forever, because one day that information will become so obvious that you will be forced to stop, or at least people will start to realize that there's something wrong there, and then people will move on. Okay, so let's move to that.
It's a little bit the same as if you would ask, can one fake goodness, or can one fake charity? I mean, goodness you cannot fake. You are or you are not. Of course, a lot of people are masked. They are showing a lot of blah blah and so on, to try to give the impression they are good. But generally, it does not last long. I mean, if the person is not good, you will see it quite soon. And that's exactly about it. I mean, to move a table is, okay, this you can fake in several manners. But to be good and to give, as he told, answers to questions that you do have intelligent answer to questions that you have on matter you have no clue about. That's another thing. That is much more difficult to fake. And even so today, particularly when the questions are coming without giving time for preparation, it can be, because as soon nowadays as you give time for preparation, it's not the same anymore, okay? Because you can go search on internet here and there, and even use artificial AI, artificial intelligence, and then you can give a kind of a false impression of something. But when it is like this on the spot without preparation, that is then much more difficult. This is exactly what he's saying. And that's why the gentleman did not came back anymore. Because he saw that he could not fake Kardec and all the other people who were there together with him.
You can take him away as well.
Yeah. What another point that I would like to speak, Charles, and when we have a need for a specific and important work, I prefer to ask the benefactors if the medium is up to the task. Because sometimes I may be wrong. I may have one perception and I may be totally wrong. So I prefer to ask the benefactors, is this medium, to start with, is this person really a medium, for example? Is this person able to work in the activity with us? Is the result of what this medium will produce good enough or positive for what we need? You know, and then when we work with the spirit, we are way better. We are ensured to a certain extent that whatever we are planning to do, we have a better chance to succeed, you know? Back in Brazil, most of the mediums we have in our mediumship meetings, they've been validated by the mediums, by the benefactors, because we were unsure about them being ready or not to start the activities, or even happened before, we were not able to be sure that the person were really a medium or had something else. And then we, through a consultation with the benefactors, they came back and said, no, he is a medium, he needs to start to develop his mediumship. So it's better to work hand by hand with our benefactors as far as we can, as much as we can, because that will give us the certainty that what we're doing is a bit more correct than trying to do something by ourselves.
Yes, Guillaume, but even to do so, you need to have at least one trustable medium, isn't it? To ask the benefactor.
Correct. Correct.
At the beginning, when you don't have it,
it's difficult.
Just wait and observe and see.
Yeah. When we don't have a reliable medium, and a reliable does not reflect the moral of the medium. It reflects how many years the medium is working, the type of work the medium is used to. Reliable is a very comprehensive word for the medium. It's a bit of everything. And yes, it does help a lot. And Charles' point was perfect. When we don't have a medium that we are used to work with and it's not that reliable, we need to observe, we need to evaluate, we need to study. It will take longer. Definitely will take longer. But this does not prevent things to happen. But it pushes us to be thorough in everything we do and to be more organized. 316. In all matters, the persons who are easier to deceive are the ones who do not belong to the trade. And the same applies to Spiritism. I think that's obvious, isn't it? If you are someone that just arrived or don't know anything about Spiritism and then you see a phenomena, it's easier to be misled. It's easy to think that what you see is something, and it's easy to be tricked. All right? Those are appearances, whereas a preliminary and careful study, not only of the causes of the phenomena, but also the normal conditions in which they may be produced, would initiate them into the subject and furnish them the means of recognizing the fraud. No. First of all, I need to do an extra effort to study the subject. In that case, if I'm talking about physical effects, I need to study physical effects. I need to do some research. I need to understand how the phenomena is produced. Otherwise, I will see things and I'm not even able to identify what it is. Second point is the circumstances of the phenomena, meaning where it is happening, whom is present during the phenomena. Is the person a serious person? Does it have a good moral? Does it have good, I don't like that word, but it's the word that's coming to my mind. Does it have a good curriculum? And then when I mean curriculum, I mean how many years the person is doing this, how many years the person is studying, how many years the person is working in charity, things like that will endorse the person, okay? Okay, we can move on. Yep. 317. Fraudulent mediums. Something came to my mind here that's very important. We need to distinguish a fraud from the medium and a fraud from the spirit, okay? I do not know a possibility of fraud from the spiritual world for the physical effect. But we do know the possibility of fraud from the spiritual world for the other phenomena. Psychography, psychophony, you can have both, okay? Fraudulent mediums are justifiably
I didn't sorry, Guilherme, I didn't get your comment here. What do you mean the fraud of the spiritual world? Like the person can, for many reasons, be a fraud. Want to spotlight something like that, money, and to try to do a mediumship. But how the spiritual world can fraud the effects?
I will start to receive messages signing Jesus. is one example that came to my mind. I will send message telling you, I am Jesus, or I am a good, elevated spirit, well known, and I'm telling you to stop working. I'm telling you to stop studying. This is a fraud from the spiritual world. I'm being more specific. We have a less enlightened spirit, pretend to be an elevated spirit, using good names to reinforce the message they want to pass. And this message could be a fraud. And if we are not attentive enough, we could fall into a trap. It's very easy, because sometimes they will write a book. But in that particular chapter, in that particular sentence, that is the trap. So we need to be very careful in what we read, in what we accept as real, because sometimes it's not.
Yeah, Guilherme, I think we have to make to understand better the point is to make the difference between intentional fraud of the medium or unintentional fraud of the medium. When it's intentional fraud of the medium, by moving a table, or even in intelligence effect, the medium who is Googleizing the social networks about information of a deceased person, and then gives a message, try to convince that the message comes from the deceased person. In fact, it is not. These are examples of intentional fraud of the medium himself, okay? And Guillaume told the intentional fraud about the intentional fraud of the spirits. So the medium can receive a fake message without having the intention to give a fake message, without any pretension or whatever. Even when the medium is perfectly honest, he can receive communications through a spirit which is fraudulent, which is saying something which is not true. Okay. And when Guillaume said, for physical effect, there is no fraud of the spirits, it's obvious, because, I mean, when physical effect, a table is moving, when the medium is not cheating, the spirit cannot cheat either, because the table is moving. You see what I mean? Huh? So that's, I think, what you wanted to say, Guillaume, if I understood well.
No, yeah, that's right. That's right. Perhaps I have used incomplete words, but that's exactly what I meant. And either way, I think we have to be very attentive in front of any phenomena, because sometimes we want so much to see what we want to see that we ourselves may end up seeing something that's not even happening. And I want so much to get something, and then we don't see the obvious in front of us. We need to be careful in what we ask, in what we want. And if I could make a suggestion, I would suggest not to ask anything, because when something is coming freely to you, you have kind of protection, really, you know. And when you're pushing so hard in one direction, you may become so desperate to get a phenomena in front of you that either a strong wind, you may start to interpret it as a phenomenon, and then there's nothing there, right?
Correct. And even, for instance, you are medium, and somebody is coming to you crying and desperate and needing consoling about information or news or a sign from the beloved person who is deceived, who died, who passed away, you know. So it is legitimate. The person comes eager to look for something, you know. And that is exactly where it's the most dangerous for the medium, because you, even with a good intention to try to give an answer to that person, you may, write what you are thinking and not what the spirit is saying, you know. or even take something from a spirit which is not the deceived, the one who passed, the beloved one who passed away, you know. So these situations are very, very difficult, and we have to be careful. I will just give an example. We had a group, in the group I'm working, we were, it was very at the beginning, we were beginners. We were asking the spirits for advices of what we could do for people who were sick, for instance, or ill. And one of the members of the group, he brought the case of his mother, saying, my mother is not well those days, and so on. So could we address the spirits about what to do with my mother in this session? So we said, yes, of course. And the messages we got is, oh, no worry, everything will be fine, make some prayers and so on. And some days later, the mother of this member died. So it was like, you know, a cold shower on all the members. Everything started to doubt. We were thinking, we were willing the good of his mother, and we did not see the reality. But this does not prevent that maybe it was, of course, certainly it was programmed for his mother to die at that moment, and that the fact to return to the spiritual world was good, you know. But it was really like a cold shower to the whole group. And by the way, we stopped the mediumistic meeting after this episode because of the doubt, it rose, you know. And these are the type of things we are faced with at the beginning, you know, when we don't have enough experience on mediumship.
Yep. And however,
sorry, but in this case, for example, Charles, what I learned, if we ask things like that, if he is a spirit or someone that is good, right? Would this person say, the mother will die, don't worry, but she will pass away on Wednesday, 3 p.m.? I don't think so, right?
Maybe not so harshly, but what would a mentor say in such a case? Pray for her, and you know, he will not announce she will die straight ahead like this, but he will how to say, induce the group to stay with her and to make the necessary to bring the necessary help in this phase, you know. But he will definitely not say, don't worry, everything will be fine. You see what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And the practice showed to us that when things are not that good, they come and they say, well, for God, nothing is impossible. Let's pray, let's hope things will change. But they will not tell that, yeah, she or he will be okay, and no, right? But to work with that kind of situation, we also need to be very careful with which team, which spiritual group we are working with. Because if you are used to work with a group of spirits for like 10 years, 20 years, you have a tracking record of how they work, how reliable they are. It's not the same as I'm going to a spiritist meeting. I don't know the medium, I don't know the spirit. Hey, is this person here going to die or not? The answer is meaningless, because you have, before you start to trust that kind of situation, you need to establish a routine, a pattern where you can truly trust the spiritual group you're working with. Charles, I will leave you now, and then I'll see you in half an hour.
Okay, so good drive.
Okay, all right, see you soon.
So 317, let's continue. Fraudulent mediums are justifiably stigmatized in the following letter, which we have reproduced from the August 1861 issue of the Revue Spirit. So Kardec is giving us here an example. So let's read it. Paris, July 21, 1861. Just as a remark, the medium's book has been printed at the end of 1861. So it was something quite recent before the first issue of the book. Huh? Dear Sir, one may disagree on certain points and thoroughly agree on others. I have just finished reading some consideration on page 213 of the last issue of your magazine concerning fraud involving issues of spiritual or spiritist experiments, considerations to which I am happy to have fully dedicated myself. Consequently, all confusion about theoretical and doctrinal matters has disappeared as if by magic. I am perhaps not as severe as you are with regards to medium who worthily and properly accept remuneration to make up for time dedicated to experiments, which are often long and tiring. However, I am as severe as you, and it is impossible not to be, with regards to those who resort to deception and fraud to compensate for when the promised and hoped for results are absent or insufficient. So Kardec is putting here a link, see item number 311, because I think it maybe not last week, but 2 weeks before, we have seen exactly this point. So this correspondent of Kardec is quite open for some kind of compensation, at the opposite of Kardec, who says better is no compensation at all, no financial compensation at all. But he is very strict on the what we call intentional fraud. The hoped for results are not here, so the medium is making a fraud to provoke the phenomenon. And it's very interesting to see this here, because look what happened some decades later after Kardec. Kardec, he knew Daniel Douglas Home. And by Kardec's observation, he was convinced that Home was not frauding, that he was humble and also honest. But after Home, just as an example, Zapia Palladino, I think most of you heard about Zapia Palladino. So it's an example of a medium who had, from Italy, she had a true mediumship. Some phenomenon have been observed with her, amongst others by William Crookes and some other researchers. And they found out that she had really, how to say, this mediumship. She was, for instance, able to act physically on, how to say that, an apparatus to measure the weight of something, a balance. And it was under some glass, so she could not touch or blow or do whatever to do so. And only by her will, she made such to create an effort, a physical effect, on one of the plate of the balance, So this type of phenomenon, prepared by Crookes, observed by Crookes with all the cautious and the medium just coming at the last moment and achieving such type of result, he could see immediately that there was no fraud. But what happened later with the Zapia Palladino? She was known for her mediumship, so a lot of researchers were eager to get her, so they started proposing money. They started even proposing a lot of money, and the medium accepted to have the money. And then she came to some places. So sometimes at the beginning, it still worked naturally, so the phenomenon did happen. But after a given point in time, the phenomenon did not happen anymore. So, but what about the money then? And this led Zapia Palladino to find ways of fraud. And it's exactly this. So she was caught by intentional fraud. So what happened then? All the people said, she was caught with a fraud, so she's making fraud since the beginning. So they started with negation of the whole phenomenon, even the best observed one, you see. So at the end, this problem, the consequences of this type of intentional fraud of the medium are still hindering the observation of this type of physical effect phenomenon nowadays, more than a century later. There is a French writer, he wrote, he spent his whole life for studying ectoplasmic phenomenon. And now he's, I think he's 80 years old. He started to write some books summarizing the whole observation, studies, and experiences he gathered during his whole life. And it's very interesting. So we have 2 volumes of 1,000 pages. It's in French, unfortunately, called The Saga of the Ectoplasm. And it's really amazing to see how many times this happened with Zapier Palladino, with Marc Béraud, with Franek Kluski, with a lot of others. And instead of convincing the scientific community, it was more putting them more in doubt, you see. So I again fully share the statement of this writer. When there is an intentional fraud, we should be very severe to the medium, to the people which are involved in this fraud. But let's continue a little bit. And of course, he may be more open with regard to remuneration, as we can see here. But most of the cases, the fraud is due to the fact there is some remuneration involved, you know. As soon as there is money involved, you have much more risk to have fraud involved as well. When there is no money involved, why should there is not so, the risk is not so big, at least, let's say so. So let's continue in this letter. Mixing truth and error when dealing with phenomena precipitated by the intervention of spirits is simply disgraceful, and a medium who have absolutely no moral sense in thinking that he or she could do so without scruples. As you have observed perfectly, it casts doubt over the matter in the minds of the indecisive once fraud is recognized. So it's exactly what I just commented. I would add that it most deplorably compromises honorable individuals who lend the disinterested support of their knowledge and understanding to such mediums, and who have become trusting patrons by sponsoring them in some way. Such an act is committing a true abuse of authority. So you see, it's quite, let me just check the French version to be sure of what I understood from the English. Okay, so so yes, so I understood it correctly. So basically, he's saying here that as soon as we mix the truth and error, or the honesty with the fraud, the reaction of most of the people is, oh, that's not worse. And in Portuguese, we say they throw the baby away together with the water of the bath they are giving to the baby. I don't know if there is some equivalent expression in English. And it's basically this: there is something beautiful and true, and only because there is something false, you just throw everything away, you know. And this is the reaction when these type of things are done. So that's why it's highly condemnable. Huh? And also, then you have some honest researchers, like William Crookes was one, like Camille Flammarion, like Kardec or whoever. Huh? A lot of people say, someone has been cheated somewhere, so Kardec has been cheated as well. You know, Crookes has been cheated as well. This is how the people react. And it is, of course, as he says, highly, what is abuse of authority? Yes, it's really giving a very negative image. So that's why we should always be careful. We should doubt ourselves first, as Camille Flammarion said always. No, not Camille Flammarion, Gabriel Delanne. He was saying, before attributing a physical effect phenomenon to mediumship, you first have to see thoroughly all the possible material causes of it, you know, and only once all the material causes have been discarded is you can open the field to the hypothesis of physical effect mediumistic phenomenon. And that is the right attitude we should have. The people, even spiritists, even with goodwill, who are believing too easily and too quickly to the things, are also not helping the image of the spiritist body of knowledge. So let's continue in the letter. All mediums who have been caught in the act of fraud, or if I may use a slightly trivial expression, with their hand in the cookie jar, deserve to be stigmatized by all spiritualists or spiritists everywhere. It is their strict duty to unmask and expose them. You see, he's quite strong in his opinion. Okay, we should even so be a little bit charitable, but firm, you know. We should not at all give any trust for this type of things. And in case of doubt, even when we are in doubt, is to say, sorry, I'm in doubt. I don't deny, I don't accept. I just ask for more evidences before giving my definitive statement on it. Voilà. If you think it proper to print these few lines in your magazine, they are at your disposal. Sincerely, Matthew. So Kardec not only published it in the Spiritist magazine, but he even published it in the Medium's book. And I don't know what you think about the opinion of this fellow, but I tend to agree with him, except from the beginning by saying, admitting some remuneration or retribution. I'm still more following Kardec, saying better without. Okay, what time is it? Yes, we have still some minutes. 318. All spirit phenomenon are not equally easy to imitate, as we have seen. Physical effect is quite easy, albeit you cannot cheat the good observer. He will immediately see where you are cheating, as it happened with the Davenport brothers when they gave their shows in Paris a little bit later, also in 1865. But the intelligent ones are even more difficult, as we have just seen. There are some that are obviously defy every skill of illusion, particularly those involving the movement of objects without contact, the suspension of heavy objects in the air, raps heard in several places at once, apparitions, etc., except by trickery and collusion. That is why we have stated that, in such a case, one must attentively observe the circumstances and, especially, take into account the character and the situation of the person involved, as well as their objective and interest in being deceptive. You see, is he fully disinterested or not? That's a key element in this analysis. And then, of course, it's to observe, to see whether there are some hidden ropes or some magnets or whatever, you know, as Gabriel Delanne said, you must discard all the material possibilities. And basically, this is what happened the first time Rivai, not Kardec, Rivai, went to a session, as he tells it in the posthumous works, in his history, and he saw exactly this type of phenomenon. You see, table moving, raps being heard at several places at the moment. He could see the person, he could observe everything. Did they prepare something? What is behind the wall? Whatever, you know. So he was aware of all that, and he, in one session, came to the conclusion these phenomenon are authentical, and there was no fraud behind it. Okay, so but of course this because he had the sense of observation as he has learned it with Pestalozzi in the Pestalozzi school. Pestalozzi bringing the scholars to the nature. Okay, let's observe the phenomenon and try to deduce the laws which are behind it. So everything based on observation. And that's why Kardec, he was certain that there was no fraud, that the phenomenon were authentic from the first session. And then everything confirmed in numerous other sessions where he could see the same physical effects, including the one of materialization of hands, hands which are materialized with taking another hand, and then of a sudden dematerializing, disappearing, you know. So he could observe all those things, and of course that, particularly at that time, was much more difficult to imitate. And the problem is that, as Guilherme told, with AI, with, for instance, a picture or a movie does not prove anything anymore nowadays, because you can, with Photoshop or whatever, imitate whatever you want. AI is about to taking a picture of you and recording some of your words, showing you saying something that you never did and you never said, you know, only by generating through the artificial intelligence. So even a video is not proving anything anymore today. So the more the technology advances, the more it is difficult to prove the authenticity of the phenomenon. At that time, it was easier. You see, for instance, these hands which are appearing, you can imitate them by holography nowadays. At that time, there was no holography, there was no laser, you know. So today, we even have to be much more cautious than Kardec was at that time and asked us to be. Okay.
One question: this kind of a phenomenon, like to something moving by itself, or like directly writing, that it is materialization of things is very rare as well, right? It's not common that stuff happens.
Oh, not so rare as well. I mean, it's Kardec is saying, and Léon Denis confirmed, put five or six persons around the table, and it is very rare that nothing happens, you know. And so we don't do it anymore. And of course, we should not do it for doing it, but these phenomena are not so rare as we think. There are a lot of phenomena like this, for instance, when a person is passing away, where spontaneously some of these phenomena are happening. So it's not so rare, you know, but the spontaneity of the phenomenon itself is also a good indicator of the authenticity of the fact. Elzoli?
About this, this happened here some years ago. My professor in psychology, we were to talk about a talk. I mean, I think it was a talk, but it was with audio. And I said, "I help me." I write, "I help me," because it was a small wonderful stones, because I remember my son usually had a collection of stones also, and the stones. And I had some in my table, and but only there, so it's spread there. So, and I talked to him about, say, this was wonderful. So, Papa, suddenly, stones was wrapped, stretched in a line, straight line, all stones. I think it was about 6 or more. The wonderful wonder. I have a picture. So, and I said, help me, please, because, oi, I saw now I didn't say when, but I saw now stones are in the right order, like so. And he said, maybe this is a physical effect. I would ask you, Charles, it was me, it was another, it was one spirit, of course, it was one spirit, but me use another one. Why happened this one?
Ah,
Well, it is an effect. This is a physical effect, or what is this?
So it's an example, yes. As far as I understood, is some stones moving alone or putting them into a given sequence and so on, without any human directly intervening in it. So of course,
Exactly.
it is something that must be. It happened spontaneously as well as I understood from what you said. So
No, I didn't see. I didn't notice. Suddenly, because what was it? Talk. Was it suddenly it was so, and but this is effect. This is physical effect.
as
Or
soon as there is some object moving or some noise or some light or whatever which is physical happening without human or natural intervention,
it was
yes,
a
it is by
spirit.
when it's how to say done by spirits. This is the definition of the physical effect. Yes, but then the
Make
question
feel.
is, how did it happen and who was the spirit who did that and whatever, that's then more complicated. How did it happen? We have seen earlier this year the physical effect phenomenon in the chapter of the spirit's book. There it's of the medium's book, sorry, it's very well explained how it works. So
Yes,
combining ectoplasm and so on.
Like
But
one,
it needs a case by case investigation.
one question. The question is like, for example, like it is spontaneous things, like the bad ones, right? Let's put it this way: they broke things, making noise. That stuff is more common, right? The bad ones
Yes.
usually do the manifestations. I don't know why, but when you say like when we read the books into sections, like you said, like the balance or a pen right by itself, like that is things I was curious how common, because that's stuff that we people do, like kids do, I think, with the glass, right? Like the letters. That is common. We see the effects, right?
Yes.
Because it has a lot of people and it's easy they take the energy to do. But into scenarios that are more sophisticated things, like the pain right by itself, the instead of the person though.
Camila, I give you an advice because I mean we have to stop. Rafael is already with us and it's reaching our time. I give you an advice. Camille Flammarion wrote a book about haunted houses. I don't know, was it you, Rafael, who presented that one?
It was.
You, voilà. So Rafael made a wonderful analysis in English. It is on the bus, cardiac radio, and so on. in this Camille Flammarion series, recorded their YouTube channels. Just listen to the facts Raphael is taking out of these books, and if you have the opportunity, take the book and read it. And there you will see definitively there are a lot of such phenomena, much more than what we think, and which undoubtedly come from something out of the physical world. Okay, the cause is out of the physical world. So, okay, so Raphael, I will hand over to you then. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, Charles. I'm not 100%, I don't know if you can feel my voice in my coffee. I think I'm going to skip this one, but Lolita, is she here? I think. Oh yeah, hi Lolita. Lolita offered to do the radiation for us. And I feel it's going to be a special one because year end and we have Lolita with us. So there you go.
And good recovery, Raphael.
Yeah, get better, Raphael. Hi, everyone. So may I ask you all to close your eyes and to connect with Jesus. Open your hearts to his loving message. And let's fill our hearts with loving vibrations. Loving vibrations that came from the amazing study today, where we are still focusing on teachings and studies and the light of Spiritism. Studies that help us to understand the sacred gift of mediumship and also the responsibility it carries. Today, we're reflecting again on the importance of truth and sincerity in all spiritual work. Help us, dear Lord, to discern genuine communications from the spiritual realm, and guard us, dear Lord, against the dangers of pride, selfishness, and deceit in mediumship. May we remain vigilant. May we remain committed to seeking only what uplifts us, seeking only what educates us, seeking what inspires us, rejecting anything that leads to confusion or harm. We also, dear Lord, ask your blessings upon those who are suffering around the world. May your love reach all of those struggling with mental illnesses, those who feel lost, those who are in despair, and those contemplating ending their lives. May they feel the comforting presence of their guardian spirits who are guiding them towards hope, towards harmony, and towards renewal. And may we also lift our prayers for all of those who are living in zones of war, in areas of conflict, those who are constantly enduring fear and the separation of the loved ones. Dear Lord, may they feel your divine peace. May they find strength in your love. And may all of us, and may humanity awaken to the path of love and understanding. And as we here in the UK head towards the Joanna De Angelis Congress in September 2025, where we pray for all who will gather there to reflect on the vital themes of understanding our thoughts, feelings, and emotions. In this world nowadays, where many of us are overwhelmed by inner turmoil, may this event, may this Congress bring clarity and healing to those seeking to better understand themselves and others. May the Congress and the themes inspire deep reflection on how our mental and emotional states shape our spiritual growth. And may it empower us to cultivate harmony within us, so that we may radiate peace and love outwardly in all aspects of our lives. Dear Lord, we ask your protection and the protection of our spiritual guides. They always walk with us in patience and in love, inspiring us to stay on the path of truth and on the path of life. May we learn to listen to their gently whispers, their whispers of wisdom, and to trust in their guidance as we navigate life's uncertainties. And finally, may the lessons we have learned today and continuing to reflect on them, may they remain alive in our hearts. May they inspire us to serve others with kindness and humility. May we grow into instruments of your love, dear God. And so is spreading light and peace wherever we go, every day, every time, every minute. And so be it.
Thank you, Lolita.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have an excellent day. All the best.
Thank you.
Best wishes.
Thank you, Papa.
Thank you.
Best wishes.
See you next time.
See you next year.
See
Thank
you
you
next
for
year.
all. Thank you for the
Bye bye.
help.
Thank you.
Bye bye.